You need to want failure if you want to succeed. And that sounds strange, but let me explain. So, when we have competing incentive structures in the mind, for example, wanting to take a risk to get something you want and wanting to avoid failure, what happens is that it triggers the behavioral inhibition system. And this behavioral inhibition system, basically, it is what it says in the name, it stops behavior. And what that looks like for a lot of people is anxiety, overthinking, avoidance. And so when you're engaging in a lot of avoidance, overthinking, feeling anxious, you've probably triggered the behavioral inhibition system. And that's why you're not acting. And so in order to stop triggering the behavioral inhibition system, what you need to do is you need to have one goal, right? So not competing goals. So for a lot of us, we want to get the goal we want, right? Which requires risk. And then at the same time, we want to have no failure, right? Like maybe you want to post on here and you want your video to do well, but you also don't want it to fail. You don't want to feel embarrassed. Well, those are two competing goals because you can't guarantee either of those happening. And so if you are comfortable enough with failure, if you can convince yourself like, you know what, I actually do want failure because A, I'm strong enough, and B, it'll teach me a lot, and C, it is the path to success. If you can really convince yourself of that, then you won't engage in avoidance, you won't engage in overthinking because you won't have competing goals. And so essentially what happens with avoidance and overthinking and procrastination is that you want something, but you're not willing to take the risk and the pain associated with it. And so with anything in life, you need to take a disproportionate risk, is what I usually call it, because you need to take a pretty big risk to get something that's worth getting, because if it was easy, everyone would do it. Like everyone would do that. Like it's not hard. And so you need to do something that other people just wouldn't be willing to do. They wouldn't be willing to endure the kind of negative emotion associated with that. And so if you can change the way you think about failure, and you can really incorporate wanting failure into your value system, then you will overcome this behavioral inhibition system. It's a lot easier said than done, and this is something I work on with my clients, but understanding the theory behind it is the first step, because for a lot of people, they don't understand how the mind actually works. And behavioral inhibition is based in psychology and neuroscience. So this is like a multi-modality framework, and it's explaining how the mind actually works. And so what happens is that a lot of people feel very confused by their avoidance. They know that they want the goal, but they don't also realize that they want the no failure as well. And they don't understand why they don't move towards the goal. Well, this is why. Is because it's a competing value, right? It's a competing goal system here, and that triggers behavioral inhibition. You trigger behavioral inhibition, no human will do anything. And this even exists in animal models, like it isn't even just humans. And so if you're experiencing a lot of avoidance, a lot of procrastination, this is why. So at least now you understand why.